Well, welcome back to the channel. It is now day 61 on the road. So that means I have another full month of daily shorts that I've made that I'm just going to go over and recap right now. If you are new here, I have been making a daily short for every day of my big summer van life road trip. And I've now made 61 days worth of that. I made a recap after 31 days, which was my first full month. And now after 30 days, that is my next full month. So I'm just going to play each individual short, and I talk about them, just provide some insight, talk about things. That's pretty much that. It's not rocket science here. Play a short, talk about it, and then on to the next one. So with that being said, let's play the first one. Well, welcome to day 32 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big summer van life vacation, and today we're making a roadside dinner from Walmart. As you can see, behind me is my van. Right next to me is my kitchen. I'm in the median, and I'm just down the street from a hotel. And I spend the night on this street, technically on the other side of the road, but this side has more yard, so I'm here to make my dinner. Okay, I'm actually going to stop that short early because you don't really need to see me cook. That was a long short, 2.5 minutes long. If you want to see me cook, you can just go watch that short. But that was just me cooking in the medium of a hotel that was outside of Edmonton. I think it was in Edmonton. I just stayed down the street in a little industrial area outside of Edmonton. It was just down the street from a hotel. And that's what I like to do if I'm in a van life. I like to find an industrial area or places by a hotel or sometimes apartment buildings. Places where you're not obviously, like if you park in front of someone's house, it's a little bit weird. But if you park in front of an apartment, an office building, a hotel, you could be anybody. You could be a guest of anyone. So it's not suspicious for a random vehicle to be there. Even though my van is always a little bit suspicious because it has a canoe on the roof. It is a 4x4 Astro van. I feel like it kind of always looks like somebody's in it. But with that being said, you try to fit in as close as possible, do it at a hotel. And then it's also not the greatest of ideas to cook in the median on my bins that I was using as a table there. Not always the best thing to do to not raise suspicion to yourself. But with that being said, it was a non-issue there, so I did it, and that food was good, and I don't regret it. Let's do the next one. So welcome to day 33 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big summer van life vacation, and I really need to get out of Edmonton. I've been stagnating for quite a few days after getting my muffler fixed, so it's time to hit the road. First, I slept in the same spot as I did the day before, which on weekdays turns into a construction site. Then it was off to Walmart to use their bathroom and do a big resupply. Then I gassed up and hit the road. As mentioned, I had really started to stagnate here, so it felt really good to hit the road and be out of Edmonton. I made a quick detour into Elk Island National Park, where I saw this bison, and this bison, who decided to strut its stuff right in front of my van. Not bad considering I just came here to sneak into the shower. I also checked out Ass-Toten Lake, which is beautiful unless you look too closely. It's full of blue-green algae, so just admire it from the shore. Then I got back on the road, and I was driving straight, and it was really starting to feel a long way from home. Eventually, I pulled into Lac La Biche, where I walked this boardwalk, and saw Lac La Biche itself. I'm out here to canoe the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, so I'll be out of cell service for quite a few days. So with that being said, I'll see you when I get back. So as I mentioned, I really did stagnate in Edmonton. I went there to get my muffler fixed, and then I just kind of never got going again for what seems like a long time. Really, it was probably only a few days, but it feels like you're doing nothing. And then when you're out there doing nothing, I mentally spiral sometimes, and then you're just sitting there, you just feel like a bum. You feel like, at the end of the day, I'm living in the van, I'm a homeless person. You feel like a bum when you're not doing anything, and I really wasn't doing anything with my time in Edmonton for the most part. Like, I did a little bit of things. I met some people, met some fans, but I was kind of just hanging out by that hotel, not doing a lot, which is not an ideal way to spend your van life vacation. You want to be doing. And then from there, I went to the Elk Island National Park. I went there last year, saw a bunch of bison. Last year, I hiked on some of the trails and saw some bison on feet, but it's on foot. But you can just see them from the vehicle. And I didn't actually think I was going to see any because I showed up right in the middle of the day, the heat of the day. And then I saw 3 just on the road. And I might have even seen some on my way out of there, which is pretty cool. That lake, we will get more into algae in lakes as we go with these daily short reviews. But that Astoten Lake is so beautiful, and I want to go back and do like a sunset canoe on it, because the sunsets I saw last year, I didn't see a sunset this year. The sunsets I saw there last year were so beautiful, so much color, just unbelievable. But then you look at the water and it's like blue-green algae that's toxic. Cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae. Literally it's toxic. Apparently it can kill pets, give you skin irritations. But it's like, oh man, the lake looks so inviting, but it's toxic, which is a bummer. Also toxic is Lac La Biche. So I went there at the end. Also, stunning lake from the distance. Kind of a weird town. I did not feel... We'll talk more about it later, I think. But I didn't feel the most welcomed in there. Maybe people were just thrown off by my BC plates. But when you go out there, you just see this huge lake, and it's absolutely stunning. But again, it had by that boardwalk area that I walked on. You look down, it's like all green, and it's kind of yucky. And it's very disappointing. But with that being said, I said I was going to go canoe the canoe circuit, the Lakeland canoe circuit, and I believe that's what the next short is going to be. Well, welcome back to me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation, and today this is going to cover for day 34, 35, and 36. I'm currently out canoeing the Lakeland canoe circuit outside of Lac La Biche, Alberta, and I'm actually on my own private island on Blackett Lake. I'm also totally naked right now. Anyways, I found it very difficult to take some vlog footage while I'm out here, so you're going to have to wait for the whole YouTube video to come out to see it. With that being said, as you can see, this water looks very clear behind me, but I promise you, it has not been like that this whole time. In fact, it's been pretty gross. Actually, it's been really gross at times. But I have seen some beavers and some pelicans, and I've used some weird toilets. But the canoeing itself has been pretty good. The sun's been out the whole time, and seeing 0 mountains on the horizon is a trip. Anyways, that's all you're going to see from this trip, unless, just kidding. I'll see you on the next one. So the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, I found out about it via a targeted ad that hit me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm not really sure which. Could have been both. It doesn't really matter, but it was a targeted ad for me about the Lakeland Canoe Circuit. And I found about it last year, and I wanted to do it last year, but last year I broke my canoe seat in Yellowhead Lake. It snapped because I am too fat, and it broke, and then I didn't really want to push my luck in my canoe by doing a canoe circuit, so I had to put it off a year, but I wanted to go do it this year. And then because of my trip at Astoten Lake in Elk Island, and then I went to Lac La Biche, and both those lakes were filled with algae, I had this moment of, I'm not sure that the lakes I'm going to are not going to be filled with algae. So I made a last-minute decision to pack my full 20-liter jug. It's 18.5 liters, plus big water bottles like these. So I had like 23 liters of water. So I carried my own fresh water, and I was so glad I did, because immediately upon arriving at the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, you got a portage there. But then once you get down there, it's like algae filled. And I was like, ooh, that's gross. And I was like, maybe it will clear up, which it kind of does, but not really. The whole way down, it's like green. And when you get close to shore, all the algae like piles up on shore, and it's so thick. The top layer of algae molds, and it smells, and it's gross. I don't want to put my feet in it. I'm scared to, like, I don't want to, like, splash myself. It's just disgusting. So I had this amazing view of what this canoe circuit was going to be like. And then when I got there, it was kind of gross. I like the circuit overall. Like, I enjoy paddling, canoeing distances, going from island to island, different beaches, different lakes. I found it interesting, but the whole time you're on top of, like, gross water that you don't really want to be on, let alone in. So it's, like, nice, but not. So it was kind of a weird thing. And that was my first time, like, really canoeing in Alberta. And I think I said it was a trip looking out onto at the end of the lakes, and you just see the end of the lake. There's no mountain above it. And I'm from BC, so we're full of mountains. So it's like the lake ends, there's rocks, there's trees, and then behind it, or maybe even ways behind it, there's something that goes up, like a mountain. Even if it's not really mountainous, it's a large hill covered in trees. But on the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, you just see the end of the lake. So you're on the lake, you see the end of it, it ends in trees, and that's it. There's nothing above that. It's like a weird feeling. It's like the only thing that exists is the lake that you're on. Obviously, that's not true, but there's nothing beyond. It's the strangest feeling, and maybe everyone's used to that except for me, but I found it quite strange. With that being said, we're on to the next one. So welcome to day 37 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation, and today I'm just hanging out in the campsite trying to get my stuff back together. But we are celebrating my 2,000 subscriber milestone with a giveaway. So 2 weeks ago, I made a YouTube video saying if you comment on this video, you are entered to win a fire maple lantern. Well, now it's been 2 weeks, and I had a draw. First, I had 95 people that entered, so I wrote everybody's name on a piece of paper, cut them all up, and put them into a hat. I discarded one name, D-Bucks Production, because he's my best friend, and even though he did mow my lawn today, I didn't feel like it was right if he were to win. So all the other names went in the hat, and I pulled one, and Freeze came out. I know who Freeze is, because on Instagram, every time I post a picture of water, he tells me to fish it. I have not fished anything, but lucky for him, he's the winner. So that's day 37 of me posting a short. Congratulations to Freeze, and better luck next time to everybody else. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, so that was just my 2,000 subscriber giveaway. Congratulations to Freeze. I don't know how long Freeze has been one of my subscribers. It's not from the very beginning, but it's been quite a long time. And he messaged me on Instagram all the time. Like I said, every time I'm on water, he tells me to fish it. And now, I was literally, later on in this hike, you'll see it, but I saw a fish in the water. And the first thing I thought of was Freeze telling me that I should fish that. And then, yeah, so anyways, thank you everyone that has likes and subscribes to these videos. It is awesome. And I might not do another giveaway at 2,000 subscribers, but I might do something at Christmas just because I'm a big-time Christmas guy. We'll have to find out, but keep following along. At major milestones, I feel like I would like to give stuff away. And if I get gifted things via some sort of sponsorship type of deal, I also would like to just give that stuff away. Like, obviously, I'll keep some of it, but some of it's like if I get a battery station to review, it's like, yeah, review it and then pass it on. And then maybe I'll just keep doing that. But also, these could be illegal lotteries, so I don't know if I can just keep doing that. But since I'm an absolute nobody, I am going to until I get told not to. With that being said, let's do the next one. Well, welcome to day 38 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big summer van life vacation. And today, it's all about my time spent at Touchwood Lake. I really enjoyed my time spent there. I spent 2 nights there, and I really liked it. I like the name, Touchwood Lake. It makes me think of one of those corny adult movies focused around a camp counselor at Camp Touchwood. Maybe that's just me. Either way, after the gross algae-filled water of the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, I drove up the road a bit further to find the way cleaner Touchwood Lake. Way cleaner. Just look at this place. It was begging me to canoe it. So I did. I paddled across the whole thing. It was a little windy, and I saw the most clouds I've seen in 5 days, so it was time to go. I headed down the road back to Lac La Biche to the famous Burger Baron, where I got a James burger, no tomato. Then went to the lakeshore to crush that well-earned burger. And now I'm at a new lakeshore on the same lake, and I kind of think we might get a thunderstorm tonight. I'm not really sure, but you'll have to find out tomorrow on day 39. Yeah, so Touchwood Lake was definitely a nice lake. From the Lakeland Canoe Circuit, it was just down the street, like 10K maybe. And that was literally the reason I went to it, was because it was so close. I was like, I can't not go 10K further down. I don't even think it was 10K. It's probably less than that. I can't go a little bit further. Like, it's just, I have to go, sorry. I have to go further. So then we check it out, and then as soon as you see the lake, you're like, oh, I have to camp here. And I actually really enjoyed my time camping there. But I showed up on like a Wednesday, or no, probably a Thursday. I showed up on a Thursday of a long weekend. And then it got very busy. And I was like, there's so many people coming in with RVs and boats and jet skis. I've seen a lot of jet skis on this trip, but they came with boats, RVs, and there's so many people, kids. And I was like, I got to get out of here. But it was very nice to get out there and canoe. I just canoed around. I had a thought I was going to canoe and then portage into an Air Force missile testing base, which sounds like a bad idea, which it probably is. But when I got there, I started portaging, and I was like, what am I doing? This portage sucks. I'm just going to drag this boat 7K round trip just to put my boat in a new lake that I think would be fun because there's missiles. Like, nah, it's not worth it. Stay on Touchwood Lake. Just paddle around. And it was a good paddle. If I were to go to do the Lakeland, I probably wouldn't do the Lakeland Canoe Circuit again. But if I did, I would also go to Camp Touchwood, to Lake Touchwood, and paddle. It was quite nice. Let's do the next one. Well, welcome to day 39 and me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation, and today I'm still in Lac La Biche. And if you can see behind me, the weather has changed substantially. First of all, there's a huge amount of smoke on the horizon, and it is very windy. And last night, we had thunderstorms. I rode out those thunderstorms on the side of the road, camped out in front of this apartment building. I then hit the road to go to this park, use the bathroom, then walk around, check out this pond, and eventually played some disc golf. I didn't really like the course. There was just too much bush. So I pretty much just quit and got in some close range practice instead. After that, I headed to Sir Winston Churchill Provincial Park, which is basically an island on Lac La Biche. So the drive there is very interesting. I ended up at the Pelican Viewpoint, where, you guessed it, I saw some pelicans. I'm so glad I packed my binoculars. Lac La Biche is actually a migratory bird sanctuary and is a very important spot for birds. So if you're interested in birds, you should come to Lac La Biche. After that, I hiked the Boardwalk Trail, which actually featured very little boardwalk. I hiked all the way to Long Point, where I saw this beaver dam and even more pelicans. Then when I got to the end, it was just another view of the seemingly endless Lac La Biche. Yeah, so you saw there at Lac La Biche, I was camped in front of an apartment building. Again, I felt like an outsider the whole time I was in Lac La Biche. I felt like all the people driving were staring at me when I drove. I don't know if it was they were looking at my van because it was so cool, or if it was the BC place. Like, why is someone from BC doing up here if they were judging me? I don't really know, but I did feel like people were staring at me in a weird way. So I just wanted to fit in. So I camped in front of that apartment building. Again, you could be anybody's visitor if you're in front of an apartment building versus parking in front of like a park or in front of a house. You look a little more suspicious, in my opinion, than in front of an apartment building. And then that night we had thunderstorms. I don't think it rained. Maybe it did. I can't remember. I think it mostly just thundered and maybe lightning. I don't know. I could not see out my windows. It was thunder and wind, very windy. And then when I woke up, it was windy. Smoke had blown in. You'll see more smoke blow in later. But then I went out to explore. That Sir Winston Churchill Park was pretty wild because you just go straight. I think it's technically on an island, but maybe it is actually a peninsula. But you go out on that long straight. I think it's a bridge, could be a road. I don't really exactly know what it was. But you go out and then you're out in the middle, and then you got like beaches here, beaches there where the pelicans were. It's like a series of different beaches. That long point or whatever it was, you hike out to the end. It's like different points on this island that you're now on. And it was a cool place. I would recommend it, I guess, if you're out in Lac La Biche and you look for something to do. One thing I will say is I did see a mouse cross the road, and I am always on high alert for mice. And I saw one at Winston Churchill Provincial Park. And yeah, I don't know if I'd want to camp there now. Anyways, let's play the next one. Well, welcome to day 40 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation, and today it's my final day here in Lac La Biche. If you look behind me, this is a monument to David Thompson. David Thompson is one of, if not the most famous explorers in Canadian history. He was the first European known to be in Lac La Biche, and Lac La Biche was once a critical hub in the fur trading business. But with the spirited David Thompson within, we're going to do what he would do, and let's get a move on and see what else we could find. So I head back to the van, and then we hit the road. And today we're headed to Cold Lake, Alberta. I feel like I absolutely maximized my stay in Lac La Biche, but it feels good to be back on the road. Even though that drive was very flat and very Albertan. But once I got to Cold Lake, it was awesome. I had a nice meal at the lakeside, and then I headed up to Cold Lake Provincial Park for a shower, which I will say, not that good. But beggars can't be choosers out here. So in all seriousness, 40 days is a long time to be out here, and feels like a huge milestone. But to end day 40, I'm going to do it in a way that David Thompson could only dream about. And that is sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. So yeah, David Thompson, very famous explorer here in Canada. There's David Thompson Country, which I actually don't know what is technically considered David Thompson Country. I believe that's an area of Alberta. But what I'm more familiar with David Thompson is the Columbia River. I believe he navigated the whole Columbia River. I don't know. I think that, now I said that, I don't know if that's true. But where I canoed on the Columbia River myself, I canoed on Revelstoke Lake, and which used to be the Columbia River, has now been flooded with hydro dams. And he, David Thompson, was the guy that went down that stretch of the Columbia River, originally through the Death Rapids. I think it's Dal de Nortes, the Death Rapids, and another set of rapids. And he navigated that whole stretch. So 2 years ago when I first started doing my van, maybe it was last year. Anyways, I canoed on Revelstoke Lake, 130 kilometers in my solo canoe. And it was this awesome trip. And that was in the footsteps of David Thompson. And now I feel like I am David Thompson. And it's just really cool. So every time you're in somewhere else where David Thompson was, I always kind of reflect back on that Revelstoke canoe trip. It was awesome. It was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I've done other good canoe trips, but that one I was kind of more winging it than on some of the other ones. Like the Bowen Lakes is very well laid out. The Lakeland Canoe Circuit is laid out. There's campsites marked. On the Revelstoke Lake, I just kind of went out there with 10 days worth of supplies, and I was like, I'm going to figure it out. Because there's no set campsites. You're not in a provincial park. You're just kind of figuring it out as you go. And it was really, really awesome. So I do always have a little soft spot for David Thompson stuff. And that monument in Lac La Biche was no different. And I think I said that I maximized my trip in Lac La Biche. I feel like I spent more time in Lac La Biche than anyone that doesn't live in Lac La Biche, which obviously is not true. But I was there on the way up. I was there on the way down. I did a bunch of different things. I went to Sir Winston Churchill Park. I played disc golf. I went to that park. That park, I will say, when I showed up, there was a guy, a person, I think it was a guy, sitting in front of the bathrooms, maybe nodding off, maybe not nodding off, but not doing the greatest. And I was like, this is kind of sketchy. Because I did, at one point, consider sleeping at that park. But, again, with my thing about the apartment building, I decided that it was better to not try to stand out in a park, but go fit in front of an apartment building. But yeah, there's a guy out there probably not doing good. And then the next day, I saw another person, potentially the same person, ride their bike to the bathroom, use the bathroom for a long period of time. And then I went in after to use the bathroom. And it had a weird smell to it, but not like I just went to the bathroom and it smells smell. I was like, I think somebody might have been using a substance that I don't know what it is with a chemical smell. That's the way I got the vibe from that bathroom. And then that was like, I got to get out of Lac La Biche. But I will say, I did enjoy my time in Lac La Biche. I saw pelicans. I saw the lake. I did a lot of things. I ate that burger. I don't think I ever talked about that burger. That burger was good. Yeah, so I really did feel like I maximized my trip into Lac La Biche, but it really did feel good to get out of there. And then I went to Cold Lake. I like Cold Lake. I found it last year, like I'm David Thompson. I found it last year, and it's like a neat beach town. And this year I thought I was going to get to go to the Fat Beach, which is the Feast at the Beach on, I think it's Kinsu Beach, the main beach there. They have a food truck festival with a concert. And last year I was there too early and I didn't want to wait around for it. But this year I'm like, I think I picked the right weekend. It was the long weekend. And I was like, this is going to be perfect. But then it turns out they canceled it this year. I don't think they could find a sponsor or something like that. And I was pretty bummed out. But at the end of the day, you're just sitting on the beach, enjoying things. There is a provincial park up there with a boat launch, with a shower that I like to use. That's Cold Lake. I think next slide is probably also about Cold Lake, but I don't know that for sure. But let's check it out. Well, welcome to day 41 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big Vanlife vacation. And since I spent last night in a Walmart parking lot, this morning I did some shopping, and I only thought it was fitting to show you how we're eating out here. And today, I'm making spicy breakfast sandwiches. I start by heating up the pan and getting the toaster set up. Then I slice up my English muffins and get them toasting. Then I get out some hot Genoa salami and I get it in the pan. I bought this salami because not only can I use it like this, I can snack on it later with cheese. After heating that up, I move it to a plate where I can make these meat stacks. Side note, I did lose one of these salamis in the wind. I then add some cheese on my stacks, jalapeno, habanero, Monterey Jack cheese to be exact. Then I get that into the pan to melt. I rotate my muffins, then get some eggs cooking. I remove my meat stacks once the cheese melted, and at this point, my eggs turned into an abomination. Mostly because my propane tank was mostly empty and froze up. So I made the decision to turn them into a last-minute scramble. That's what we do here. Adapt and overcome. Then it's time to serve up those eggs, and our spicy breakfast sandwiches are ready to go. And they're absolutely delicious. And that's a lakeside breakfast in Cold Lake, Alberta. So I think this is where I do praise Walmart. You can't sleep in all Walmart parking lots. Some don't allow it. But the ones you can sleep in, I do find it's very easy to find a Walmart. And then they have everything that you would need to buy, whether that's food, whether that's cleaning supplies, potentially propane tanks for your fuel. You could even buy new shoes if you need to, buy a t-shirt, whatever. You can always find it at Walmart. They have bathrooms that are almost always in good shape, I found. Because some of the bathrooms I use, the public bathrooms, they're terrible. They have no mirrors. Somebody was using substances in them before I got there. Somebody nodding off out front. But Walmart is usually nice. They clean them all the time. So you're gonna find everything at Walmart. It's not glamorous to sleep in a Walmart parking lot, but it is what it is. And then again, I just made a meal there on the beach. Cold Lake, very windy. I will say that. I've been there. I've spent 6-7 days there in the last 2 years, and it's very windy all the time. Maybe not all the time. I have been there when it was calm, but most of the time it is very windy. I am always going at mid to late September, so maybe that's just a windy point of the year. Very windy, and that's Cold Lake. But that's how I eat on the road. Like I said, I like that Genoa salami because you can use it as like charcuterie, or you can use it like that. There's just everything you have in the van. It's nice if you could have dual uses for it. I like to travel with one condiment that I can use for different things. I don't like to carry a whole bunch of different things. I don't like to carry multiple different cheeses. So like hypothetically, if I was making pizzas, I don't know, I don't think I would make pizzas, but it's like I need mozzarella cheese. Like that's the only cheese I have. I'm not carrying mozzarella and old cheddar. I think one day I bought brie cheese that was half off at Walmart. Again, shout out to Walmart. I bought brie cheese that was half off. It's like I'm carrying this giant wheel of brie cheese. That's the only cheese I'm allowing myself. So if I want cheese in my scrambled eggs, I will use brie. If I'm going to eat Genoa salami with cheese, it's got to be brie. Whatever, I just like one thing at a time. And versatility is awesome. Like obviously Genoa salami, not the most versatile thing in the world, but it just goes to show that everything you're doing, any flexibility you can add to the stuff you're doing in the van is good. I have a canoe paddle digging into my back right now. Anyways, let's play the next one. Well, welcome to day 42 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation. And today, I'm absolutely mailing this one in. I didn't do a lot that was exciting. I edited a YouTube video and did a fantasy football draft. Frankly, I've been here in Cold Lake for 2 days, 3 days, and I've done 2 fantasy football drafts and not a lot else. I've been sleeping in parking lots, but that's it. That's the end of this episode. Mailing it in, day 42. Hopefully, day 43 is a little more exciting, so I'll see you then. Peace. Well, there we go. We just mailed that one in. I think this explanation of mailing it in will be longer than the actual mailing it in. But you can't always be doing things out on the road. I think I edited a video. I said I edited a video there. If you're sitting in a parking lot editing, it's like you're there all day. It's like I'm not going to go walk around, take some footage of a nice pathway to make some video. It's like I was just doing nothing all day. The only thing I did was make food, which was probably cereal, or ate some hot Genoa salami with cheese. Just laying low. And like I said, I did 2 fantasy football drafts one day after the next in Cold Lake. That's why I had to go there. I originally wanted to be in Buffalo Pound Lake, Saskatchewan to do my fantasy football drafts. But because of my muffler blowing out and my stagnating in Edmonton, I was way behind. I say way behind. There's no schedule to any of these trips. So way behind is kind of a weird thing to say. But way behind in the fact that I was never going to get to Buffalo Pound Lake to do my fantasy football draft. And I wanted to go to Buffalo Pound Lake because last year I won my fantasy football league. And I had done it at Buffalo Pound Lake on the Wi-Fi at the information center. But this year I just did it in random parking lots at Cold Lake. I think one I did in the library parking lot, and the other I think I actually did it in a Walmart parking lot. But either way, as of now in fantasy football, one of my leagues, I believe I'm 2-1. I think I'm 2-1. I'm pretty sure I'm 2-1. It could be 1-2, but I think I'm 2-1. And the other one I'm 0-3 in, and it does not look good. I've lost a bunch of running backs. And I'm not happy about it. I joined that because of my friend Sarah, who I have started to play disc golf with. Sorry, I was going to say, anyways. trying to combine fantasy football and disc golf in my head. It wasn't working out. I've played disc golf with her, so then I joined her fantasy football league with some of her friends. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm a 4-time champ in my other league. And now I've started 0-3. Her friends are clowning me, and it is not good. I already regret that. So that's pretty much that. They also have a punishment if you come dead last, which I've never, ever considered coming dead last in a fantasy football league before. But now I'm 0-3. It's like, I might be stuck doing a punishment in that league. But if I do, I'm probably just going to quit that league and never talk to Sarah again. I will play disc golf by myself. Let's play the next clip. Welcome to day 43 on my big summer van life vacation, and welcome to my last day in Cold Lake, Alberta. What I wanted to do today was I wanted to canoe all the way to Saskatchewan, which you can see way out there. But obviously, that ain't going to happen today. And when the weather's bad, you got to hit the road. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go. Today is going to be a long driving day, so I'm glad to have a good co-pilot with me. My 50% off cheese and jalapeno focaccia bread. So I'm driving to Saskatchewan today, and it is a beautiful drive. Mostly because you can't see the wind, which blew hard all day, and that makes driving a brick-shaped van with a canoe on the roof really tough to handle. It'll all be worth it though, because eventually I pull up into this nice gravel parking lot, walk down to a beach, and not just any beach. This is the Dead Sea of Saskatchewan, Manitou Lake. I would like to see if I can float in it, but I ain't going in there yet. So that was the windiest day I experienced on my trip so far. I will say today, where I'm filming this is also very windy, which ironically was one of the windiest places last year on my trip. I spent the night in this parking lot that I'm in right now, and it's right by a train, and it's very loud. And then I woke up and there was a Chinook warning, and it was so windy last year. But anyways, back to that clip. Cold Lake, again, very windy. I would really like to canoe Saskatchewan from there. Cold Lake, I think it's like 10K from the border of Saskatchewan. And I really would like to canoe across the border of Saskatchewan. I feel like that's just a thing I want to do. But I don't know if it'll ever happen, because every time I've been in Cold Lake, it's been so windy. It's hard to imagine that it's going to be not windy. It's going to be so calm that I'm going to feel comfortable getting out there, not expecting the wind to come later. So I'm probably never going to do that. But every time I go to Cold Lake, that'll be one of the things that I would like to do. Anyways, when the weather's bad, this is my biggest rule of vanlifing. If the weather's bad, you drive. So I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which was canoe to Saskatchewan from Cold Lake. So you get in your car and you drive. Because what else are you going to do? You either waste your day or you spend a day driving, which is kind of a wasted day in its own way. So you just drive. And then I drove quite a ways from there, because you just don't really want to stop. And I will say that drive was very windy. With the canoe on the roof in my van being shaped the way it is, I was getting blown all over the road. You can feel it's kind of sketchy. But what am I trying to say here? When you're driving, like if you're going against the wind, you feel it's all blowing on this side. And then all of a sudden you turn and then it's blowing the other direction. It's like the craziest feeling, but that was so windy. And then in Saskatchewan, you're driving straight. And then all of a sudden, or maybe you're driving straight into the wind. And all of a sudden you turn left. And then you're 90 degrees opposite. And you're just getting smoked by the wind on the side. And then you're like, oh my God, this is so hard to hold. And it was a crazy drive. I will say that was a crazy drive. Very flat, very straight, but very windy. And that's obviously not fun. I don't like to drive in less than ideal conditions. But when you're in Saskatchewan, it kind of feels right to have a windy day. It's just kind of, it goes along with the territory. It's kind of fun in its own way. And then when I got to Manitou Lake, which again, it was very windy when I got there. And it's called the Dead Sea of Saskatchewan, which I think I'm not 100. We'll get more into it later, I think. But there's Manitou Lake and Little Manitou Lake, and I believe they're both salty. And some people say they're both the Dead Sea of Saskatchewan, but you're supposed to be able to float because there's so much salt in the water. It makes you buoyant, but because it was so windy, I could not test it, but I did camp there, so we're going to see more about it in this one. Welcome to day 44 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation, and today I want to talk about poop. You see, this morning I was using my porta potty, and I had the most epic view, and it made me appreciate the need to tell you what I do with my poop. As I mentioned, this is day 44 of my road trip, and you can appreciate that you're not always going to find a bathroom handy. Sometimes you're camping in places like this where there's just no bathrooms. So this is what I do. This is my portable toilet. It's the Reliance Hassock portable toilet. The biggest reason I went with the Hassock is because it can fit under my bed. This thing is just a lid. And then I got my toilet seat, which comes off. I got a toilet paper holder. And then I got a bucket inside a bucket. And that's actually sealed, so I can use this bucket for my shower. Anyways, in my bucket is kitchen garbage bags. So I line the kitchen garbage bag in there. I put my seat on. And I use the bathroom. You admire the view. And then when you're done, you have TP right there. And then inside the van, always handy is dude wipes. Also always handy is hand sanitizer and Ziploc bags. Because if we're back over here, we have our garbage bag that would be filled. And then we have a second one. They tie those bags off, so it's double bagged. Then you grab a Ziploc bag, your third bag, put it in there, and then you got a poop package that you got to deliver to a garbage can ASAP. Even if that means tomorrow. Gross. Okay, we're not going to watch that about poo. If you want to know how I poo, you can watch that slide. I showed you how I use the porta potty and the bag technique, double bag it. It's not rocket science, but it is interesting. And one of those things when you are out living the van life, you see all the pictures, you see the videos, it seems glamorous, but it's like, hey, we all poo. And sometimes you're out and there's no bathrooms around because you're at Manitou Lake in Saskatchewan. There's no bathrooms. And I'm in a small van. So, like, what do? That's interesting for some. You can watch that if you want to know. You can also watch my full tour of this van where I also went into detour. Either of those things, but you don't really need to see that now. Let's play the next one. Well, welcome to day 45 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation. And today, I'm driving deep into Saskatchewan. First off, I had to say goodbye to my epic camping spot on Manitou Lake. I spent the day canoeing here, and it was pretty cool. It's a salt lake, one you're supposed to be able to float in, but I didn't try because of the algae. I also found this, I think, cow skull and another bone, so that was my cue to leave. I had a long drive to do today because not only am I trying to get somewhere, I'm detouring to visit my cousin. I reconnected with my cousin earlier this year at my grandpa's celebration of life, and I told him that if I was back in Saskatchewan this summer, I'd visit. So now I'm here with nothing around other than wheat fields, oil wells, and my cousin Tommy. Thanks for the pizza, and now I'm off to Saskatoon. Yeah, so that was my canoeing of Little Manitou Lake, and also van life there. And that was one of my favorite spots to van life. I camped up on the ledge, the ridge or whatever, and I had a wicked view down to the lake. But down below where you launch the boats, you're not allowed to overnight park. So I respected that. I saw one other car while I was there, and I almost certainly could have camped there if I had desired. But I don't like to break the rules all the time. So I went up where I could camp. Great view, sunset, wicked. My paddling on the lake, also very interesting. Again, it's a salt lake, so you're buoyant. I do not know if I could feel it in the canoe. I really wanted to get in the water and float, but it was filled with algae. I don't know for sure if it's the same green, blue algae that's toxic, like in those other lakes. I didn't think algae grew in saltwater lakes. Maybe I'm an ignorant. Maybe I'm an idiot, whatever. I didn't know. I thought it meant nothing grew. which I guess doesn't make sense because the ocean is salty and it's full of life. Anyways, I didn't expect to see the algae there, but I did not want to go in the water, especially later when I did find the skull of a cow and the other bone, probably from the same cow. I'm not really sure. I think they do cattle grazing in the area, so I'm assuming a cow died or was killed by an animal around there, and it went in, and that's how it ended up there. But either way, it's like, I don't really want to swim in here now. Even though if I were to swim the other side of the lake, that's totally irrelevant. But the algae thing was gross because it might be that same toxic algae. I don't know. All this algae stuff is new to me. I did see the one other person that I saw that entire trip was a couple. They came down and went straight into the water, and they're swimming around, hanging out for a while. I thought they were crazy, but they went in with no hesitation at all. So maybe it was totally fine. I don't know. I didn't test it. But I did drive. I went to visit my cousin Tommy. My cousin Tommy lives in Kindersley, Saskatchewan. Kindersley is way out there. I will say it felt like I was driving into the absolute middle of nowhere, which is probably unfair because Kindersley is a city. But from where I was, which is in the middle of the nowhere, to get somewhere, you drive through a lot of nowhere first. And then once I left Kindersley, there's even more nowhere before you get to Saskatoon. So that was kind of a wild detour, just going out there, seeing nothing but farmland and the oil wells. Crazy. It was different experience. And then my cousin Tommy lives in a trailer, in like a trailer park. And it's just a different way of life. And he's way, like I said, way out there. I'm a city boy. I'm from Abbotsford, BC, which I've always thought was a small town. But we have 150, 200,000 people. We have 2 Walmarts. It's not a small town. And then when you go out there, it's just a totally different lifestyle. You are way out there. Trailers are normal. It's windy. It's just a lot. It's totally different. But anyways, that's family. Let's play the next clip. Well, it's day 46 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation. And today, it's all about my trip through Saskatoon. First of all, I spent last night sleeping in this gravel parking lot by a dog park. It was nice, but there were no bathrooms, so I hit the road early in an effort to find some. I found these beauties at Diefenbaker Park, where I also made some breakfast, and then I played some disc golf. Fun fact, I lost a disc in there last year. That was pretty much it for Saskatoon though, as I grabbed gas and some driving snacks and headed into that beautiful Saskatchewan farmland. I feel like I've been doing a lot of driving lately, and that's because I have, and I'm starting to get tired of it. It's day 46, and I'm starting to get tired of the road. But soon enough, my goal of the day came into view. Buffalo Pound Lake, my home for a few nights. Now it's time to do some thinking. Yeah, so there we go. I made it to Buffalo Pound Lake. Too late to do my fantasy football drafts, but it was nice to get there. Before that, I said I was in Saskatoon. I actually had plans to be in Saskatoon for a few days and just spend some time there. Maybe ride my bike along the, the Meewasin Parkway or whatever it's called. It's like the trail system along the river. Last year I canoed the river. I kind of wanted to ride my bike on the river. And then there's some buffalo place. I'm not going to come up with a name. There's some sort of buffalo heritage center. I think maybe where they hunted buffalo. I don't really know. I wanted to visit that. I wanted to ride my bike there. But then once I woke up in that parking lot, which actually was on the Meewasin Trail, I had to go to Diefenbaker Park to use the bathrooms. Bathrooms were not good. And also there was some sketchy people using the bathrooms. And it was just like, you know what? I'm going to hit the road. And at that point in time, I still had this idea that I wanted to get to not Winnipeg. I wanted to get to Manitoba to go further this year than I did last year. So I didn't want to wait and get stagnant in Saskatoon because I just wanted to keep pushing, go further, go further, go further. So I did keep driving. I went to Buffalo Pound Lake and, well, I'll play more about Buffalo Pound Lake, but like I said, I did want to stay in Saskatoon for a little bit longer, but things changed. I wanted to get on the road, so I did, and I went to Buffalo Pound Lake. Let's play the next clip. Well, it's day 47 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation. 47, what a number. A big, beautiful number. Absolutely huge. Anyways, I'm here at Buffalo Pound Lake, and I've been here for a couple days, and I'm doing some camping. It's quite a nice place, and I got good memories here. Last year, I did my fantasy football draft here, and I won. And it ain't bad for camping either. It's also a bike park, so it had this cleaning stand where I attempted to salvage my bike. I had a nice breakfast, then headed to the other side of the campsite for some disc golf. The golf was pretty good, but the mosquito situation was terrible. So I went to the beach to do some thinking and decided to spend another day here. So I went up to the free firewood pile, loaded up, and then went back to camp. And if I'm honest, today I did a lot more thinking than doing. I'm at the point of this trip where I've started to consider its mortality. It's not like it's imminently going to end, but I have committed to being back in BC in something like 11 days to meet my parents. So that doesn't really give me that much time to push on. My original goal was to make it to Manitoba, but you know what? I don't know if I'm going to. I think I might kick back, slow down, and enjoy my drive back to BC. But that's for me to know and for you to find out on day 48 and beyond. Peace. Well, there we go. I was talking about going to Manitoba, talking more about it now. Like I said, that was the rough goal of this trip, was to go all the way to Manitoba. And once I got to Buffalo Pound Lake, I kicked back, relaxed, played the disc golf. Again, the bugs at that disc golf course were so bad. The rest of the place wasn't as bad. I can't say the rest of the place. Most of the place wasn't that bad, but the disc golf course was so bad. I got eaten alive there. But once I started hanging out and I was able to chill again, I just realized that I was not going to... I didn't really want to just keep pushing the pace, go, drive. And then I kind of mostly realized at that moment that I wasn't going to go to Manitoba. The decision was not made final there, but it was, once I decided to book another night to stay there, I loosely made the decision with the ability to adjust everything on the road. But a decision was made there, and Buffalo Pound Lake is a great little place to chill because there's so many different things there to do. There's the lake, there's the disc golf course. That's everything. There's literally like a bunch of stuff. There's the free firewood, the chill at the campsite. There's internet up at the Wi-Fi station or whatever. There's just so much to do and see there. Once I got there and started chilling, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a chiller. I need to chill. So I chilled. I did it, like I said, I did a lot of thinking that day. And yeah, it was a great place for me to think. I wish I did my fantasy football draft there and I was winning still. But either way, it's a great place to think. But let's play the next one. Well, welcome to day 48 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation. And today, I'm in Buffalo Pound Provincial Park in Saskatchewan. As you can see behind me, I'm looking at Buffalo right now. I'm also here to do some other things, but honestly, they're probably not nearly as cool. Oh, this guy's coming towards us. The other thing I was doing was canoeing, and it was pretty awesome. I've actually wanted to canoe here since I stumbled on this place last year. It's just a big long lake in the middle of Saskatchewan farm country. And other than the green slime that's been on every lake east of the Rockies, it was a nice place to paddle. There's seriously creatures living in this ooze. Gross. Hey, is that the house from Epstein's Island? No, but close. Well, much like those birds, it's time for me to leave too. So I drive back to camp, cleaned the slime off my canoe, ate some dinner, and then went looking for buffalo. And I found them. And that's the buffalo in Buffalo Pound. So those buffalo, bison, buffalo, whatever, in Buffalo Pound Provincial Park, they're in, I don't know how much they roam, but when I saw them, they were kind of in the buffalo pen eating hay. I think they have room to roam, and there's another viewpoint where I think you're supposed to be able to see the buffalo if they're roaming, but they were just kind of in that pound. And I will say that moment right there when I was filming the bison dwarfed the disc golf course in mosquito bites. I got eaten alive when I was filming those bison. So bad. I was wearing shorts, and it was like close to sunset, or maybe it was sunset. And I just got eaten alive. I still to this day have like bites on my ankles that are like scabs just because I scratched them so much. It was so bad. And it was all from that bison pound. And one other thing I want to say about that bison pound is I mooed at one of the bison. It was like looking at me, and I was like, moo! And I thought it was funny. And then it looked at me, and I mooed again. And then it like started running at me. It's in the pen, and it's not like it had a huge distance to run at me, but it started like coming at me, and I just turned around and ran, and it scared the crap out of me. It is in a fence, so it probably could knock that fence over if it really desired, but it's not going to. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that I was scared after mooing at a bison. I was scared I was going to get trampled by a penned-in bison. Anyways, I canoed Buffalo Pound Lake. Like I said, I had wanted to canoe that lake since last year. It's just a big, long lake in like the middle of farmers' fields, but like coming down into it's like in a valley. There's probably a technical geographic term for it. Maybe it is just a valley. I think it's the Quapple, Q-U apostrophe A-P-P-L, the Quapple Valley, which I think maybe it used to be a river, but now it is dammed off and it's a reservoir. But it's just this big, long lake with the provincial park on it, and I wanted to canoe it, so I did. And then I thought it was going to be clear water, because that's what I remember from the year before, was clear water. But in hindsight, maybe I just didn't get that close to the water last year, because once I got on it, it was pretty clear that it had thick algae. Again, I don't know for sure if it's the same toxic blue-green algae that the other lakes had, or if it was just algae. I don't know. I'm never going to know. But it was just kind of gross. And some of the points where it got really shallow, I guess, it was so thick with that slimy, gross, algae-filled water. And then there was like, I called them creatures in that short, but I guess they're fish. I'm assuming they're fish. There was a lot of them, so I can't imagine it's beavers or otters or muskrats or something. It had to be fish, but they're just like laying there in the shallows. And then every time I got close with my canoe, they like moved and like made a little splash. And it was just like kind of gross. It's just the creatures living in the shallow of this slimy, gross lake. And it was kind of a vibe killer. I had this again, it's like the Lakeland Canoe Circuit. I had this grand picture of what it was going to be, and then it ended up just being this gross algae-filled lake. So, not that great. But with that being said, I really like seeing bison. So bison, Buffalo Pound Lake, you see the bison, canoe it. It's a great time. But anyways, let's play the next one. Well, welcome back to day 49 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life vacation. And today was a really good day. First, I went on a bike ride in the Nicole Flats area of Buffalo Pound Provincial Park. It was a nice little ride, even though my bike is totally cooked from spending 49 days on the back of the van. I rode to the old Nicole homestead, then back through the grasslands, and then eventually back to Buffalo Pound Lake, where I said goodbye to its buffaloes, and I hit the road. I was driving to Regina today, and it was more of what you'd expect. Flat. Eventually I parked at Wascana Lake and went for a walk along the lakeshore. I happened to stumble across the Royal Saskatchewan Museum and decided to check it out. It's known for housing Scotty, the world's largest T-Rex, but it does have plenty more. I appreciate the Saskatchewan-centered approach to history here, and as someone who has explored Saskatchewan over the past 2 years, this trip to the museum kind of nicely wrapped it all up with a bow. A couple of highlights here were this display where you can decorate the side of a dinosaur. And I also like this one about dinosaur poop. But in all seriousness, the star of the show is Scotty, the world's largest T-Rex. So I took some selfies with him, then it was back to my walk. I walked to the Saskatchewan Legislature building where I saw this ice cream truck and got some lakeside cookies and cream. And that's a great day spent in the Gina. Well, a lot happened that day. First of all, my bike, straight cooked. From being on the back of the van, just gets so much spray of dirt and gravel and rain and whatever gets sprayed. It goes right off the tires or right onto my bike. So I cleaned it the day before at the bike stand there. Again, actually, so Buffalo Pound Lake is also known for biking. I guess it's a mountain biker's paradise. I don't mountain bike. In fact, I actually learned on this trail that I'm not good at mountain biking at all. So I don't know. Again, I'm from BC. We have things like Whistler, Squamish. I think the BC mountain bike scene is different. I don't know what is actually at Buffalo Pound, but there's a lot of mountain bikers there. Anyways, there's that bike cleaning stand. I cleaned it all off, re-lubed my chain, and then I drove on a gravel road, and it got crazy dirty again because the oil, the grease, chain lube attracts even more gravel. So you clean off the dirt, it attracts more dirt, and it's just as messed up now as it was cleaning. And then when I went into the Nicole Flats, actually side note, at the Nicole Flats parking lot, I met a random guy. I think his name was Daryl Sexsmith, and he gave me a book called There's Always Another River. I think I'm going to go with that. That's the title. But he was some sort of author. He was a canoeer, and he saw my canoe on the roof, and he's like, hey, do you want a book? And I said, sure. So he gave me the book. But then when I went to canoe, or when I went to ride my bike in the Nicole Flats area, which I will say the Nicole Flats area is like a kind of a meadow, but I believe it, when it rains a lot, it would get filled up with water, and it would be like a wetland. But I saw it was just grass. It was all dry. But again, I'm seeing it late September, mid to late September. So I don't know what it looks like when it's in the spring when it's wet. Probably totally different area. I'm not really sure. But I went up a trail, goes up and down a little bit. As soon as I go up, I can't shift gears on my bike at all because it's so dirty and grimy. And then not only that, it was like shifting out of gears when I was like trying to pedal hard. Probably because it's no longer in the right gear because it just wasn't good. So that bike ride actually kind of sucked. I made it look better than reality in that short, but it actually kind of sucked. And all the little hills, because it was up and down, all the little hills I had to get off my bike because I couldn't shift gears to get up them, nor could I just like hammer on the pedals because it would like shift. So it was just bad. So then I had to get off and walk it up. But then going down the steep little sections, kind of like a little off camber, I didn't feel comfortable riding my bike down some of them because I was worried that I might crash my bike. And it's like the last thing I need to do here is crash my bike on this tame hill. And on hindsight, I definitely could have walked on that trail to the old Nicole homestead. It probably would have been better for me. But then once I got to the old homestead, which I think was actually kind of cool itself, nicer than I would have expected. Well built. But anyways, when I went the other way around the lake to make it a loop, it was way flatter, way more rideable. I rode the whole thing. But the way I went in, it was just steep and up and down, and and it wasn't right for me. So I don't really know where I went there. If I went the way in, I would probably walk the way in there and back, or ride my bike the other way there and back. But if you know how to ride a mountain bike, you could very easily ride that whole thing. I just couldn't. But that's a failing on me, not you. I think there's more to say. What do I want to say here? Oh yeah, and then I drove to Regina. I went to Wascana Lake, which is like a lake in the middle of town. Very nice area. we'll say the rest of Regina, what I saw, not that good. But the lake itself was quite nice. And I walked around for a while. I went to the legislature building. I got my ice cream. Very nice walk. And I really had planned on canoeing that the next day. But actually, I probably won't talk too much about that. We'll just play the next one. Welcome back to me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation. And today is day 50. 50. What a milestone. Not only is it a big milestone, it's actually my turnaround day. I was in Regina, and that's as far as I'm traveling. It's not quite as far as I wanted to go, but it's a good enough turnaround point. It's actually as far east as I've ever driven in Canada. It's as far east as I've ever driven, period, actually. Anyways, there is just one more thing that I needed to do in Regina, and that is try Regina-style pizza. So I went into Houston Pizza and got one all dressed. Just look at that girth. It was all right, but probably not worth driving 1,700 kilometers for. Anyways, I'm headed back to BC now. I have to meet my parents in Kootenay National Park in 8 days, so I have some ground to cover. I'm also trying to outrun some thunderstorms that were forecasted for the next few days, so I drove something like 2 hours today, until I found this nice gravel pullout to stop at, where I followed its trail to a bird watching tower, went up it, and admired its lovely view. Obviously, I needed to go further, so I continued following the trail to the beach until I started sinking into the sand, which was still so far away from the actual water. Anyways, this spot feels like the perfect place for me to celebrate this trip turning 50, and hopefully I get a nice quiet sleep. So there you go. Once I was in Regina, I had thought about canoeing Wascana Lake, but then I looked at the forecast and it was calling for thunderstorms and calling for excessive wind and big hailstorms. And then that was also the point where I realized that I wasn't going to Manitoba because it was calling for the storms were Regina to Manitoba. But like I said, I kind of knew already that I wasn't going to Manitoba at that point. But deep down, I was like, oh, maybe, just maybe I'll keep the mind open. But then once I got to Regina, I knew I was not going any further. That was as far east as I wanted to go. Last year, I went as far east as Moose Jaw. So I wanted to go a little further to go to Regina. Get that Regina-style pizza. That pizza was suggested to me. I forget who suggested it to me, but it was one of my followers, YouTube commenters, whatever. Could have been Instagram, I forget. But they recommended that I try Regina-style pizza last year when I was in Saskatchewan. But when they recommended it, I was literally leaving town. It's like, I'm on my road out of Saskatchewan as you're telling me I should try Regina-style pizza. So I wanted to try that for a whole year. Houston's, I believe, is the originator of Regina-style pizza. So I just went in. I was like, hey, I want Regina-style pizza. I don't know what I'm doing. She suggested I get the all dressed. That was the pizza. I got it. It was fine. It was better cold than warm. It was easier to eat because it was very thick. So when it cooled, it was just easier to eat. But it kind of tasted like eating a sandwich with a bunch of deli meat on there. There's a train. It's kind of eating like a sandwich with a whole bunch of deli meat on there, which is fine. It was barely a train. It was just two train engines together. Anyways, yeah, pizza was all right. It was better cold. Like I said, it tasted kind of like a sandwich. Would I drive to Regina to get that pizza again? No. Also, I believe there's other locations of Houston Pizza not in Regina, like in Moose Jaw, Swift Current, maybe Saskatoon. I don't really know. I've also since been told that that's not the best Regina-style pizza. I do not know if that's true. I actually wanted to do like a test of different Regina-style pizzas, but because of the weather, I decided that I was just going to eat that one pizza and get out of town. And I don't really regret that decision, but I always feel like maybe I should have tried more. My friend Missy, she is from Regina. She told me I should have went to Western Pizza or West Side Pizza. It's better. I don't know if that's true. She's from Regina. Maybe she's right. Maybe she's wrong. It doesn't matter. I left Regina. I never got hit with the thunderstorms that were forecasted. I didn't think they actually happened because I missed them, but I just straight missed them. I kept driving. Again, if the weather's bad or you think it's going to be bad, you spend that time driving instead. So I drove all the way to, I think it was called Morse, Saskatchewan, which is where I found that bird watching tower. It was called Reed Lake. It was just a stop right off the highway. Kind of an interesting spot. It was that on that lake. That lake was very shallow, and it's an interesting. There's like a migratory bird sanctuary or whatever. So it's like meant for the birds. Important habitat. There was a series of 3 different lakes. Also on that route, right down there was like a salt lake. Chaplin Lake, maybe Chaplin Town, maybe Chapman. Either way, it's a salt lake. I thought it was snow on the ground, but it's the middle of summer. So it seemed weird, but I got close. It was just salt. So there's another salty lake in Saskatchewan. Pretty interesting area. I do think potentially I got a mouse in my van at this point in time. I do not know that as a fact. We will get into my mouse situation in a little bit later. But thinking back, I could definitely see mice being at that spot. There's all those birds. Birds probably eat mice. This is a big open grassy flat land. I totally could see the mouse getting in there. And then in hindsight, I was like, maybe I heard mice in my van at that point. But I did not find out for a few days. But either way, let's play the next clip. Well, welcome to day 51 of me posting a short for every day on my big van life vacation. And today's my final day in Saskatchewan. So I came out here to the Great Sandhills, and now I'm lost in the desert. So I said goodbye to the parking lot I spent last night in, and also to this little guy hiding in the grass. Then eventually I hit the road. I was planning on getting out of Saskatchewan today, mostly because I feel like I've been in the middle of nowhere forever. But first, a quick stop at the Swift Current McDonald's for a sausage McMuffin. Then I was back on the road and seemingly headed further into absolutely nowhere. Deep down, I just wanted to drive straight back into Alberta, but that just wouldn't make for an interesting short. So I got on the longest gravel road I've been on this trip, and then in a magical cloud of dust, I appeared at the Great Sandhills. I was greeted by this cowboy boot arch. Then I walked to the sand dunes themselves. This sand was deposited here some 12,000 years ago by glaciers, and they are the second largest active sand dunes in Saskatchewan. From my viewpoint on top of the first dune, I saw an army of kids armed with crazy carpets coming, so I got out of there. I hiked to the dune that I could see in the distance, which was way better. I walked around for a while in impressive silence. I reflected on my time that I spent in Saskatchewan. The isolation of these dunes was a perfect way to end my time in Saskatchewan, because that's how I felt the whole time I've been here, but in a good way. Then I hit the road again, first on sand, then on gravel, then on a country road, and then finally, I was back into Alberta. So these Great Sandhills were actually recommended to me by my cousin Tommy when I was at his house. I was like, what's cool in Saskatchewan? He's like, well, there's the Great Sandhills. So I went. I will also say this might have been another opportunity where I did pick up a mouse. I'm not sure. I don't think I was going to get a mouse in the daytime. Mice lurk at night. In the daytime, they hide. At night, they come out. But all the information boards at the Great Sandhills were talking about how it was a great habitat for some kind of mouse. I'm not sure what kind of type of mouse it was. So then, like I said later, when I did notice a mouse, looking back, it's like, man, I wonder if I picked it up there. Anyways, again, that did feel like I was driving into absolutely the middle of nowhere, which is kind of unfair because as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, 3 cars came. And then by the time I left the Great Sandhills, the parking lot was filled with probably like 8 to 12 cars. And it's definitely not in the middle of nowhere if there's that many cars. But to me, it felt like I was in the middle of nowhere because I already felt like I was kind of in nowhere land, no man's land. I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere. And then I drove way out onto this big gravel road. And then all of a sudden there's like all these people there. It was kind of weird, but I guess it is a popular area if you're in Swift Current. It was full of kids. Like I said, I showed up and then I went for my walk and I could hear all those kids that pulled in, or all the cars that pulled in after were filled with kids, and they all had crazy carpets, and I guess you crazy carpet down the slide. But it's like, I cannot believe I drove all this way and all I'm going to hear is kids screaming and riding crazy carpets down the sandhills. So that's why I went to that second sandhill, and I was so glad I did. I was the only person that went that far, and it's totally worth it. It was like 15 minutes further walking through, I call it like the Great Sandhill. I think all of it is sandhills, but the dune is not actually the sandhill. The dune is a dune. The sandhills are covered in grass, actually. But you walk out to that second dune, and you go through like interesting landscape where it's like a sandhill with like different small trees and bushes. I don't know what any of the actual plants are. But you walk through like an interesting landscape to get up there. And then you walk around out there by yourself. I flew my drone. But you're out there by yourself in like silence. It was quite nice. Interesting stop. I don't know if I would want to drive all the way out there again. But if I was in that area, I probably would go check it out. And I would just beeline straight to that far sand dune and avoid kids with crazy carpets at all costs. Because, well, at this point, I think what am I at? 52, day 51, 52. The last thing you want after 52 days of being on your own, or mostly alone, is a bunch of screaming kids on crazy carpets riding up and down a sand dune. That's an absolute nightmare. And then if you think about it, if I did catch my mouse, or I didn't catch my mouse, if my mouse was acquired by my van at the sandhills, it was kind of a disaster. But anyways, overall, it was actually a pretty interesting stop. Worth learning about, worth doing, but also it was way out there. And the road to get out there, I was like, oh man, I want to say it was 80K on gravel road. And then at some point it actually got to like this dirty, dusty road that was worse than the gravel road. And it was like, it did just genuinely felt like I was way out there. And if I had just driven straight back to Alberta, I would have been more than okay with it. But I get it. It was fun to go, but also like I was just ready to get back to civilization. Well, welcome to day 52 of me posting a short for every day of my big van life road trip. And today was all about my time van lifing on the Old Man River. I spent last night van lifing at a boat launch in Taber, Alberta. It was right across the river from a campsite / park, so there were bathrooms to use in the morning. And a disc golf course. On tee number 1, this deer came frolicking by, and that was easily the highlight of the round. I actually lost a disc here on hole 9, but I'd trade that disc for some wildlife viewing any day. After disc golf, I had a meal in the park, then headed to the local No Frills for groceries. Then I hit the road again. I did so much driving yesterday, I kind of realized that I was a little bit ahead of the game. I'm thinking about heading into Waterton National Park, and pro tip, you don't really want to head into a national park on a Saturday if you could avoid it. So I pulled into Fort Macleod for another night of van lifing on the Old Man River. So after the Sandhills, I just kept driving, and I went all the way to Taber, Alberta. I stopped originally in a town before Taber to play disc golf, and I was originally going to spend the night there. I can't remember the town name. It doesn't really matter. But I went there, and then went to go play disc golf. The disc golf, maybe it was Medicine Hat. I think it might have been Medicine Hat. But the park was the road by the park was under construction. And then I had to drive around trying to find a spot to park that was close to the park, but it wasn't that close. And then I just got that, I ain't doing this feeling. And I was like, I'm driving further. And then another hour and 10 minutes or something, it took me to Taber. I don't know anything about Taber, except for the fact that on the beginning part of this trip, everything was advertising Tabor corn for sale. And I live in Abbotsford, BC, and next to Abbotsford is Chilliwack, and Chilliwack is famous for corn. So I was like looking at the map, and I was like, this Tabor, Alberta must be just like Chilliwack. So I thought it'd make me feel like home. So I just kept driving. That was one of my longer driving days. And once I got to Tabor, I stayed at the Old Man River. And that also might have been the day that I got my mouse. That spot was actually a sweet vanlifing spot. It was a boat launch, and it was right across the river. Again, the Old Man River, that's its name. Right across the river from, I forget the name of it. It's called like the MD Municipal District of Tabor Park. And it's a park, it's a campsite. There's showers, but the showers have a code on it, so you can't use the showers unless you're a camper or know that code. I didn't know the code. I kind of wanted to just wait outside the shower and scoot in when someone else was coming out, but I felt wrong about it. But either way, the facilities are right there on the other side of the river. I found that spot actually looking for a disc golf course again, but I overshot it. And then I found that sweet boat launch to camp at, which was awesome. And then I went back the next day, used all the facilities, played the disc golf course once I found it. And again, it was awesome, except for the fact that I might have picked up my mouse that day at that river. I don't know for sure, because I'm not going to find out until we play the next slide. Actually, one other thing I want to mention about Tabor. I don't know what they were, but there was a large group of, I think they're Mennonites. I'm not exactly sure, but like the women were wearing like old school Amish looking dresses, which I think they're like Mennonite, which also does remind me of Chilliwack. But they were like, yeah, dressed up weird, old fashioned. They had the little thing in their hair. And then the guys were wearing like dress shirts and kind of, like I said, kind of Amishy. I think they might be Mennonite, but there was a whole lot of them. I went to the No Frills, and No Frills was full of them. The streets were filled with them. There was quite a lot of them. So I'm assuming they have a huge Mennonite population there. I don't really know, but that's my final thing I learned about Tabor. Corn and Mennonites. Anyways, let's play the next one. Well, welcome to day 53 of me posting a short for every day of my big van life vacation. I'm currently here in Waterton Lakes National Park, and I'm way up the Red Rocks Canyon. If I'm totally honest with you, today was a bit of a bittersweet day, but that doesn't really matter, because right now, I'm having a great time. The day started with me seeing the first mountains I've seen in damn near a month. Then I even saw a bison. I continued with my beautiful drive right into the heart of Waterton Lakes National Park, where I got some information at the information center, then went to the bench to think about things. I decided to camp here, but that's when I found this mouse nest in my van. Gross. I also discovered teeth marks, but no mouse, in the peanut butter of my traps. To escape the reality I was dealing with, I went for a drive up the Red Rocks Canyon Parkway, then hiked around the canyon, then eventually into the canyon itself. You can hike as far up this canyon as you want, but it seems that most people only want to go far enough to take some selfies, which, to be fair, this is a great place to take some selfies. But like all adventures, if you're willing to push on a little bit further than most, you'll be rewarded. And once I passed that deep section, I had the entire canyon to myself, which was awesome. I kept going until I decided that it was time to go. Time to go for another hike. I hiked up the Blackiston Valley, which I found very interesting. This valley had burned in a wildfire a few years ago, and in and amongst the burned trees, you could see the new trees growing. It made me reflect on my time earlier this trip when I was walking through the burned out forests of Jasper. Eventually I got to these 3 viewing platforms where you can see the upper part of Blackiston Falls, then a view from on top of it, then eventually you get the third and best view of the falls. And just like that, I'm not worried about that mouse at all. I'm just kidding, that's a lie. I'm very concerned and I don't want to go back to camp. Okay, so I didn't really say where I slept that night, but originally I woke up that day at the Old Man River in Fort Macleod, Alberta, which was in the short before, right on the Old Man River. And that was either the third potential spot where I picked up my mouse, because that morning I woke up. I didn't take any photos, so I didn't mention in the short, but I have a toilet paper sitting in the pocket of my door on my passenger side. And I woke up and that toilet paper was shredded. And I was like, the only thing that could cause that's a mouse. There's no doubt about a mouse shredded my toilet paper that night. So it either got in that night or it had been in my van for 1 to 2 to 3 nights before and just discovered that toilet paper. So that was my discovery in the morning. So I was like, disgusting. I need to get out of town. So I drove to Waterton. And again, those were the first mountains I had seen in a long time. And I was very excited. But then I went to go hiking. I was going to go up the Red Rocks Canyon. So I went to go into the back doors of my van to get out some gear. I think I was looking for my water shoes. And that's where I found that mouse nest at the back door of the van. And that was the first I had seen it, but that was quite a big nest. So I don't know how long it had been living there, building that nest, because I don't open my back doors that often. First of all, I have a bike on the back, and then I have a rope from my canoe that comes down and blocks off the back. So they're accessible, but it's not easy to get in. So I use my side doors pretty much exclusively, except I need to get my gear out of the back. So I didn't discover that until I was there. And it was made with toilet paper, which I know where the toilet paper came from, the toilet paper in my door. But then there was also like insulation in that mouse nest where I actually still to this day, don't know where that insulation came from, because I emptied all the insulation out of this van when I built it. Like I took everything out and then added my own stuff. And it's got like Reflectix, like bubble wrap style insulation, but there's no like material insulation that was in that that mouse nest. I don't really know where that came from. Either way, it was gross. I threw that away. And then, like I said, I went to the Red Rocks Canyon to forget about it, which is kind of hard to do because it's like, man, I hate the mice. I hate mice in my van. It's such an invasion of my life. I'm living in this tiny van, and if there's mice in here, it's gross. So I went there, and I really enjoyed it. I was super skeptical at first. I walked alongside of it and then went up to like this bridge at the top, and I was like, this is it? I thought it was going to be this big, majestic canyon, and it was kind of like this boring canyon walk trail. But then once you get down into it, you're like, okay, now I get it. And then you're like walking in the thing. It's like, I had this big smile on my face. And I said, I went through that deep section. And then, yeah, I just went a ways up. You can go as far as you want. And I kind of went until it like stopped being a canyon. I don't know if that's true. Like maybe it would re-canyonize. But I got to the point where it was like this canoe paddle is very uncomfortable. I got to the point where the canyon walls just weren't as steep anymore. And it kind of felt like it was, I kind of felt like it was done. So I turned around at that point and drove back. Well, I didn't drive back. I went and did that other hike, which was Blackiston Falls, it was a really nice hike. But that whole drive was on the Red Rocks Parkway, which I think was like 10 or 15K. And that whole drive was very nice. And frankly, all of Waterton was very nice. So other than me finding my mouse nest in the van, that was actually a really good day going to Waterton. And Waterton is something I wanted to do last year, but I held off when I was actually in Fort McLeod the year before. I was in Fort McLeod, but I wanted to go to Waterton, but you're not allowed to put your canoe in the water. You're not allowed outside boats. And I was like, well, if I can't put my canoe in the water, it ain't worth going. Maybe I'll go next year, which I did. Still not allowed to put your canoe in the water. No outside boats allowed. But I was like, I also had a friend that I met in Jasper that was working in Waterton. So I was like, well, I'll go visit. I will go see. And if I can't canoe, I can't canoe. But I think 2 years in a row, I can't bail on it. So it was interesting to get there. And I'm happy I did go. But anyways, there's more Waterton coming. So let's play the next clip. Well, welcome to day 54 of me posting a short for every day of my big van life vacation. And today, I'm just mailing it in. Not just this short, but the whole day. It's been raining all day, so I'm just hiding out under my canopy. I slept like crap last night because I knew there was a mouse in my van, and I think he's still probably in there. I have my van door wide open, just hoping that it will leave. But why would it? It's cold, it's rainy, and I'd rather be in my van too, alone. But unfortunately, I'm out here, hiding from the rain, riding the emotional roller coaster that is the van life. Yeah, so that was a terrible day. I literally sat under my 10x10 pop-up, 8x8 pop-up shelter. I sat there at my picnic table, hiding from the rain under my shelter all day. And I was such a bad mood because I did not sleep good. I did not sleep well. I did not sleep well. And in the morning, there was like more signs of mice. My toilet, well, I didn't have my toilet paper in the door, but my mouse traps, they're all baited with peanut butter. The peanut butter itself had teeth marks in it, and more of it was gone. So a mouse had to still be in my van, eating my peanut butter from my traps without getting caught in my traps. And then, like, when I woke up, it's like it was cold, rainy, and it's like I just wanted to lay down in my bed. But it's like I don't really want to be laying down in my bed because there's mice in my van. So that was probably one of the worst days of my trip. And it just sucks going to a national park and not doing anything because the weather's bad. You're in a bad mood. It's just terrible. It just sucks all around. It just sucked. So that day sucked. I mailed it in. I don't feel bad. But anyways, let's play the next clip. Well, welcome to day 55 of me posting a short for every day of my big van life vacation. And after a very bad, rainy day here in Waterton, the sun is officially out, and I'm determined to have a way better day today. So I set off from my campsite and head down towards the beach, which is absolutely spectacular. From there, I walked up Cameron Creek and the road to get to Cameron Falls. I continued my walk down by Emerald Bay to the International Peace Park, where I sat in the Parks Canada red chairs and admired the view of the famous Prince of Wales Hotel. After that, I drove up the Akiyama Parkway. This is a scenic drive, one that has been unmistakably altered by wildfire. I stopped at Cameron Lake, where I walked the lakeside trail, which is stunning. The water is so clear here that I could even see a fish. This trail weirdly ends at this viewpoint, which is strange for a trail that looked like this. I then ate leftover parking lot burritos for lunch, featuring my Waterton hot sauce from the general store, and a deer. I made a quick trip down to Akamina Lake, then headed back to town, where I hiked the Bears Hump Trail. This trail was super steep, but it had absolutely insane views of Waterton Lake at the top. And that's how you recover from a no good, very bad, rainy day. So that's how you have a better day in Waterton. That beach is walking distance from the campsite. And then when I drove, everything's a walking distance, but I drove to the boat launch, and that's where you go to the international, there's no boat launch. You cannot launch a boat, an outside boat. So it used to be a boat launch. Now it's a parking lot. But then you walk up the International Peace Park. That's where that bay is and the view of Prince of Wales. Just walking around the town, the beaches, the lakes, just around town is like nice enough for like regular folk. But then you go up the Akiyama Parkway there, which again, it was really nice. The mountains that you see on all sides of you, very layered, I guess is the way I would describe it. You can really see like the way they're formed. Very interesting mountains. All of it has been burned by fire, so that's kind of a bummer. But I do find that interesting in its own way. But you head up the Akiyama Parkway, and I got to Cameron Lake at the end, which, knowing what I know now, I actually would like to canoe that lake more than Waterton Lake itself. That lake was very beautiful, and I know you could take your canoe up there, but again, right now, you're not allowed to put foreign boats in the water. But if I could, I would like to canoe, because that was a beautiful lake. Definitely worth going to. Definitely worth... I got a fly in here. Definitely worth going to. Definitely worth hiking around. Very easy trail. But the way it ended with that weird viewing platform without a view, it just had information about bear maintenance, bear conservation, and how it's tied in with America because you're just looking towards the U.S. border and how it takes both government conservation effort from both sides to look after the bears in the area. But it was just weird because it's such a beautiful view-filled trail to end in not a view was just weird. Anyways, but it was worth doing it. I walked back down. I went to another Akamina Lake, which was cool. It was a very short hike. It was all right. The thing is, I was just at Cameron Lake itself. It was very beautiful. And then it's like you walk to a smaller, less beautiful lake. It's like, it's worth going to if you want to go on a hike. But it's a lesser lake. And it's like, how many lakes do you need to see in a day? That's up to you. Kind of neat. Had lunch there. That Waterton hot sauce was not local, not made local, but it had Waterton, and it was made in Ontario, but had Waterton name on it. I bought it at the general store in Waterton, so it made sense, but it's weird that it wasn't actually local. And I believe it was yuzu, citrus, and something else, which I almost guarantee is not made locally, because I don't think they grow yuzu citrus in Waterton. Either way, it was a good hot sauce. Added to my chorizo and corn burritos that I had made, and I forgot to buy hot sauce, so it was worth getting it at the general store anyways. And then I went down and I hiked the Bears Hump Trail. That trail was sweet. It was steep, so in that way it wasn't sweet, but the view at the top was so beautiful. I actually made my selfie up there, my new profile picture on Facebook and Instagram at Sarge Inc. Follow me. Very beautiful. You have like this huge, long view of the town, but of the lake itself. And because you're up so high, it is very nice. The hike took me 32 minutes, uphill the whole way, and I was like going, but I'm fat and slow. But it only took me 32 minutes. I sweat through my shirt real good. But it was, for me, definitely worth doing if you're into hikes that go uphill. Definitely worth doing, taking pictures from the top. And it was a great way to end my rebound day after that rainy day to get up there. It was a great way to end that day proper. And I decided at that point that I was spending one more night in Waterton. And because I got rained out a day, I felt like I deserved to spend a night for free. So I camped on the street that night. And we'll play the next clip because that did not go well at all. Well, welcome to day 56 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life road trip. And today started really bad. I woke up to knocks on my window, which turned out to be the park warden, and that wasn't good. I tried to do the shaggy it wasn't me routine, but I soon got perp walked to the information center. I did get off pretty lucky because all I got was a warning and I had to pay for a night of camping. And they only charged me $17, which is the overflow rate because the campsite was actually full anyways. But either way, I got to get out of here. After thinking about it, I didn't want my run-in with the law to be my final memory here at Waterton, so I went for a hike. This is the Bertha Lake Trail, which takes you up into the mountains, past Lower Bertha Falls, then further up the mountain, and then even further up the mountain, until eventually ending at the very beautiful Bertha Lake. What a way to turn around my day. I hiked back down, attended a wedding, then went to Wieners of Waterton for some driving food, and then from here, it was just driving. I was totally ready to get out of Alberta and back into BC. BC is where I'm from, and it's where I'm the most comfortable. Especially since this drive puts me 4 hours away from the scene of my crime. Now let's just hope this parking lot doesn't bring me any mice or any more window knocks from the authorities. So you're not legally allowed to camp in your vehicle on the streets of a national park. Can't do it in Jasper, can't do it in Banff, and you cannot do it in Waterton. I was very cocky with it. Not only was I camped on the side of the road, I had my window open just like this. So it was probably pretty obvious that I was in my van. So I got knocked at about 8:15 in the morning. I got a firm knock on my window, and they're like, "Park warden," and I was like, silent. And then they knocked on a different window, and then they said, "Park warden," and I said, "Silent." And I had this window open, so I silently closed it when they were on the other side of my vehicle, so they couldn't look in and make eye contact with me. And then they knocked a third time, and they're like, "Park warden, we know you're in there. We can hear you moving." And I was like, silent. And I was just hoping that they would leave. And then I heard him get on the radio to like call for backup. And I was like, I'm caught. There's no doubt about it. Like I'm clearly busted. He's not leaving. He knows I'm in there. He didn't see the window closed, but he saw the window was open. Now it's closed, which, is stupid. But anyways, I at that point when I heard him get on the radio, I just hopped out and I was like, "Hello? Like, what's going on?" Like, acting dumb. And then he's like, "Oh, didn't you hear me knock?" It's like, "Well, I heard someone on the radio." I was like, what's this commotion going on? He's like, "I knocked like 3 times. I'm like, "No, I sleep with headphones in," which is true, except that at that point I literally had woken up and I had no headphones in, and I would have almost certainly heard the knock with my headphones in. But then I tried to play ignorant, but also I'm not a dick, so it's like, "Oh no, I didn't hear. I got my headphones in. I didn't close that window. It doesn't sound like a thing I would do." And then he was not impressed. And then he took my ID, went back to his truck, came back, and then I was like, he's like, "So like, what's going on here?" I was like, "Well," he's like, "Whatever." He said, like, it's very obvious you're camping in your van. You got parking passes up on your window. Your window was open. Whatever. You just said it was very obvious. And I was like, "Well, I was camped here 2 days in a row, and then I was going to leave yesterday, but I came back from hiking late, and then I just decided I was just going to camp here, and I figured I could get away with camping on the street." And then he was like, "Okay, it was good to hear your side of the story." Went back to his van, came back again, gave me my ID back, and he said, "Here, this is what we're going to do. If you're okay with it, I'm going to give you a warning, and you have to pay for a night of camping." And I was like, "Yeah, that's more than good. Unless the fine is cheaper than camping, this sounds like a good idea." And he's like, "No, the fine is not cheaper than camping. You'll also have a court date, so you have to come back to Fort McLeod, and I could tell by your BC plates." Also another warning sign that I was not local. "I can tell from your plates you're going to have a long drive to get back here to go to that court date. It's not worth it. Just pay for camping." I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally down to pay for camping." He's like, "Let's go to the information center right now. Follow me." So I followed him to the information center. Information center still closed. So we go. He's like, "Well, it's closed." So, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, I know you don't trust me at all. I will pay for camping. Just leave me to it. I'll promise you I'll pay for camping. I can do it online if you want me to, but I'm caught. I'm good for it." And then he's like, "Okay, you know what? He gave me whatever." I texted him. He texted me whatever. We exchanged phone numbers. He's like, "Just text me a picture of the receipt when you leave, once you pay for camping, and you're good to go." So I went into the information center. I told the lady, like, "Hey, I just got busted camping on the street. Park warden told me to come pay for camping." Joked around. It was all fun and games. The lady charged me $17.50, and I was like, that doesn't sound like enough money. I paid $30 to camp here the night before, and the night before that. Are you sure it's only $17.50? She's like, "Yeah, we're charging you the overflow fee because the campsite was actually full." So it's like, if I had actually paid for 3 nights of camping, it would have cost me more in the long run than doing it the way I did it. Even though it was not good getting caught, it really wasn't. It turned out to be not that big of a deal. Maybe I have a mark on my record, my Parks Canada record. And as a person that uses the parks a lot, it's probably not good. But they didn't take my pass away. They really did nothing other than made me pay for camping, and I got a warning. Which I don't know if it's like a literal warning or if it's like, hey, just don't do this again. Like, I don't know if that's on my record. So next time when I sleep on the street, if they're going to find it and be like, oh, this guy is a chronic abuser of camping on the streets, or if it's just disappears and it didn't happen. I really don't know. Either way, don't camp in your vehicle on waters and lakes. And if you do, don't have your window open and just get out of there early. But realistically, just pay for camping. That hike I did that day, it was cool, but compared to the bear hump, well, it is a different view. The bear hump one you have a view of Waterton. This one goes to Bertha Lake. Bertha Lake is nice, and if you're interested in that kind of hike, do it. But the Bears Hump Trail, in my opinion, had a better view at the top, and it was like half the distance, a third of the distance, versus pushing it like 6K, 400, 500 meters of elevation to get to Bertha Lake. Again, if that's what you want to do it. But you can also do things that are not quite as long, still difficult, still feel like you're achieving something. I would rate the Bears Hump Trail higher than the Bertha Trail. Also, Bertha Falls, well, you get two different viewpoints of it. The lower Bertha Falls doesn't look that much different than Cameron Lake Falls or Cameron Creek Falls, which you can see by walking on the road in town without having to climb a huge mountain first. So it's like not much different. Is it worth going all the way up there? You have to make that call yourself. And then you get another view of Bertha Falls, which is like big, long fall, but it's like not the best viewpoint. And then Bertha Lake is just another alpine lake. Again, it's nice, but it depends what you want to do while you're there. Is it as awesome as going to Red Rocks Canyon? Probably not. Is it as awesome as going to just doing the Bears Hump? Probably not. But if you're looking for a 10, 12K round trip hike with some elevation, to get some exercise, it's not worth doing, but that's kind of up to you. With that being said, let's play the next clip. Well, it's day 57 of me posting a short for every day on my big van life vacation. And today is my first day back in BC, and it feels awesome. If you look behind me, I'm on an absolutely crystal clear, beautiful lake. This is Columbia Lake, and I'm currently looking for the source of the Columbia River. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but we're going to find out. First, I just want to appreciate how clear the water is here. It's so much better than the green, slime-filled lakes I paddled in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Damn, it feels good to be home. This paddle starts with a trip across Columbia Lake, the first lake on the Columbia River. Then we enter the channel, which will lead us to the source of the Columbia River. The Columbia River is 2,000 kilometers long. It starts here in Canal Flats, British Columbia, and winds its way to the Pacific Ocean at Astoria, Oregon. Along the way, the Columbia River flows through enough hydroelectric dams to power 8 million homes. But there's no sign of that here. The water just slowly bubbles out of the ground in a very humble marsh. And that's paddling to the source of the Columbia River. So there's the Columbia River. It's Columbia Lake, but it's all the beginning of the Columbia River. The river itself is dammed so many times. There's like a whole bunch of different lakes. And earlier I was talking about Revelstoke Lake, which is further down from that. But that trip that I canoed Revelstoke Lake, I later found the source of the Columbia River, which is just on a little trail marked on Google Maps in Canal Flats, BC. And you hike to it. And I had like a little moment of like, wow. When I, like the canoe trip on Columbia, or on Revelstoke Lake, part of the Columbia River, 130 kilometers, huge lake, dammed by two huge dams, just big. And then when you find the source of the Columbia River, it just bubbles out of the ground. Super humble, super small. There's just not a lot to it. But it flows from the ground into Columbia Lake. And I have wanted to canoe it ever since I found the source of the Columbia there. So now that I'm back in BC, on my way to visit my parents in Radium, I decided to canoe it. And it was so nice. The lake itself was beautiful. Water was so clear. And like I said, it was so much better than the water I've seen all through Alberta, Saskatchewan. It's just night and day difference between BC water and then Alberta water. Anyways, very nice little paddle. Canoeing up to the source itself, kind of a pain in the butt. Very shallow. So you're like pushing yourself. You can't get a full paddle stroke in. You're like half paddles. You're half pushing, half paddling. You got to like shimmy on like some rocks. A couple times I had to get out, drag my canoe a little bit. But once you get to the end of the little thing, it was awesome. Cool little spot. I flew my drone. It was a great little excursion. Great way to welcome myself back to BC. I would canoe Columbia Lake again. I don't know if I really want to canoe up that river or up the creek to the source again. Probably easier just to walk to the source, the trail to the source. Side note, I did sleep in the parking lot of the source of the Columbia, which is a good vanlifing spot. You'll walk to the creek in the morning or walk up the path in the morning to the source itself and then go canoeing on the Columbia River. It's probably what I would do. Well, that being said, I don't regret what I did. It was quite nice. And if you've never been and you like paddling, feel free to go up there. Probably easier early summer and spring when there's more water. Again, I'm traveling late September, mid to late September, so all water's low. But either way, it was cool. Great way to welcome myself back to BC. Now let's play the next clip. Well, it's day 58 of me posting a short for every day I'm on my big van life road trip. And today, I'm going to go meet my parents in Radium Hot Springs. But first, we're doing some van lifing in Invermere. So I slept here on the side of the road in front of an apartment building to not look suspicious. In the morning, I drove down the street to the beautiful James Chabot Provincial Park on Windermere Lake. I used the bathrooms here, then headed to the grocery store for eggs because my mom said she needed them to cook me breakfast tomorrow. But until then, I went to the Dilly food truck and I got the pulled pork breakfast burrito. It was so good. Honestly, the best thing I've eaten in at least 58 days. Then I hit the road and headed to Radium, where I tried to work off that burrito in the park and watched a herd of bighorn sheep roam around town, which is my favorite part of Radium. Then I watched some of the cool cars roll in ahead of the Columbia Valley Car Show tomorrow, like this sick F-150 and trailer combination that my parents drive. And then it was time for some family time at the campsite. Okay, so there we go. I'm parked in front of another apartment building. Again, that's what I like to do. That place is one of my favorite places to van life because it's right by that park, also in front of the apartment building, super low key, and I like Invermere. Invermere is like 17 minutes outside of Radium, so you have all the benefits of Radium, like being in the national park, the hot springs, all that stuff, but you have all the creature comforts of home because there's real grocery stores, there's a Canadian Tire, about more glue mouse traps there, because I still actually haven't caught that mouse. I feel like it's gone, but I have not caught it, so I added even more traps from the Canadian Tire to Invermere. But I really like Invermere. I like that spot. You can canoe from that lake, Windermere Lake, up to Radium via the river through the Columbia wetlands. Really nice little paddle. You could do it in a day. I took the city bus to Portage, my canoe or whatever. Kind of a pain to do it with one vehicle, but the city bus is there, it works. Really nice little spot, one of my favorite spots to van camp. Also, Windermere Lake is the world's largest skating rink in the wintertime. I think I've never been there in the winter, but I think it's something like that, or maybe it's skating, cross-country skiing. Anyways, I have not been there in the winter, but I like that spot. Maybe that's a thing I'll try. That Dilly food truck, the Dilly food truck, that breakfast burrito that I had was so good. So good. It was probably the best thing I've eaten on that this trip. I think maybe I just only remember it because it's recent, but it was so good. It had pulled pork, it had eggs. She served it with like queso, there was like sauce in there. And then she gave me like dill pickle hot sauce. There's dill pickle ketchup to dip the tater tots in. It was just so good. and big. Not everything you buy these days, especially from food trucks, feels like that good of a deal. But that was kind of like on par. I don't even remember what I paid, but it's like on par with what you'd pay. But it was so big, it felt worth it, and it was so good. I would go up there again just to get that breakfast burrito. And they probably serve other really great food, but I was only there for breakfast. But another day, I wouldn't mind going to Radium, soak in the hot spring, and get an evening dinner in Invermere, camp on that spot, and then the next day I could canoe up the river. It's not a bad idea. Anyways, that was awesome. After that, I headed up to Radium, which is only like 17 minutes away. And then I just sat and watched cars roll in. There's like one strip of town. Everyone has to come up that one main drag, coming from either highway or all three highways. You got to come up there, so you just watch. And because it's the car show, all the fancy cars were coming in. Last year, all the cars were like doing burnouts and showing off and stuff like that on the main strip. This year, the police came out, put cones, blocked off a lane, and were present, so they couldn't do as much stuff, which was a bummer, but it is what it is. At that point, my parents showed up, and I just went up and hang out at the campsite. My parents wanted to come hang out with me on my trip, and it's hard to plan on one of these trips where I'm going to be, because it's kind of whatever I'm doing. But that car show I stumbled upon 3 years ago. I don't think I went to the car show 3 years ago, but I stumbled upon a car show. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. So the next year, last year, I made a point to go to the car show. And then this year I was like, I think I'm going to enter the van to the car show. But then my parents were like, well, where can we meet you? I was like, meet me in Radium this weekend at the car show. We can check out the car show. We can camp. We can go to the hot springs, do that kind of stuff. So that's where they met me. They don't like cars, so it's kind of a weird fit, but we'll talk more about it later. I split it. I didn't want to spend 4 days in Radium camping. I thought they would regret that, so we ended up going to Banff, but this was day one of being with my parents, and let's just play the next clip. Well, it's day 59 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life vacation, and today I'm up in Radium camping with my parents. First, I went down to their trailer for breakfast. I was absolutely shocked to see my dad doing the cooking. He crushed it though, and breakfast was great. After breakfast, we headed down to the Springs Golf Course to go to the Columbia Valley Car Show. This is the 35th annual and my third year in a row attending. There's about 1,000 cars here of literally every variation. I like this giant fan, this Subaru rally car, this Honda Civic that was my high school dream car, and my favorite thing was probably this big rig hot rod. Although this Consular was something that I've never seen before, and apparently it was banned from something. Anyways, there's just so many nice cars here, but it was time to go. So I hiked back up to the campsite, got sidetracked by some views, then continued. I caught my dad doing his best photographer impression. Then it was time for dinner. So what do you think about that wiener to bun ratio? So I was at 35th annual Columbia Valley Car Show. There's close to 1,000 cars. I think they limited it on the amount of cars that could fit on that on the golf course, but it's definitely cool. If you're interested in cars, it's interesting to go to. What I would do is Vanlife in Invermere and then go up to the car show. While the car show is on, that's the time to go to the springs, like the hot springs, because it's less busy, because everyone up there is doing car show stuff, not regular hot spring stuff. I personally didn't go to the hot springs that day because I was hanging out with my mom. I felt like it was more appropriate to do it. It's not all about me when my family's in town. But yeah, there's so many cool cars. If you're into muscle cars, there's obviously a lot of muscle cars. There's different cars. There's vans. There's some Japanese cars, some Volkswagen vans. There's all sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's just a car show, but it's a big car show, 1,000 cars in a cool spot, totally worth going to. I don't really know what else to say. Let's just play the next one. Well, welcome to day 60 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big summer van life road trip. Day 60. That's crazy. Last year's big summer van life road trip lasted 68 days, and every day I'm getting a little bit closer to beating that mark. I'm out here camping with my parents, and I got a couple more days left, and then after that, it's going to be decision-making time. Do I try to stretch this trip out as long as possible, or do I just aim for 68 days, 69 days, beat that mark, and go home and adopt a dog? I'm really not sure what I'm going to do yet. I am pretty tired, and I'm kind of ready to go home. But with that being said, I got a couple more days to think about it. But today I get to start with another dad-made breakfast. Then it was time to say goodbye to my campsite in Radium and head off towards Banff. It feels crazy to leave Radium without going to the hot springs, but the parking lot looks so full, I just kept driving. It's a beautiful drive all the way up Highway 93, but I still wanted to split the drive up, so I pulled into this little parking spot and hiked up Marble Canyon, which is a beautiful creek that flows through this deep canyon. It's quite spectacular, and it reminds you of the power of water. It all ends at this cool waterfall that flows under the final bridge. And then on the way down, I saw this rock with more layers than your personality, and eventually I hit the road again. And then I'm back in Alberta. Then I rejoined with my parents, and we went to Lake Louise. Because if you don't go to Lake Louise, were you even in Banff? No, you weren't. So there you go. We were headed to Banff. I'm not the biggest fan of Banff as a whole. I've just had bad luck there. I have not been able to get camping. I hiked to the Plain of Six Glaciers tea house. The tea house was closed early. It's just not there's a lot of people. It's just not my favorite thing. But then when my parents were like, we're going to come join you, it's like, you know what? Banff is probably the place that you should be. We don't really want to spend that much time in Radium. There's not a lot to do. But Banff, there's more to do. There's all sorts of restaurants. There's little walks to do. Going to Lake Louise, like you have to drive there and then you walk. But you can walk alongside the lake for whatever. We walked probably, I think it was like 2K up the side of the lake. And then you turn around and walk 2K back. Flat. That's my parents' more my mom. My dad is outdoorsy, but he's old. Back in the day, he was a hiker, but now he's not really a hiker. But my mom has never been a hiker, will never be a hiker, but she can appreciate a flat lakeside walk at Lake Louise. So it just made way more sense for us to go to Banff than Radium. So that's what this is. My sister's also supposed to be a part of this trip, but she bailed. But that Marble Canyon would have been good for her to do, along with myself. It's still not very long, but my mom wouldn't have liked it. So that was just a thing I did for myself. But whatever. We're in Banff, and I think I said I'm thinking about going home and adopting a dog. I don't really know how much longer I'm going to be out here. I am getting tired. I am very broke. I'm very broke. And yeah, I'm just kind of getting tired of being out here. And I have to get to day 68 is the goal. That's what I did last year. It can't be a shorter trip than last year. So I have to get to day 68. But I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to do. At some point back in my optimistic days before I left, I thought maybe I'd get to 80 days. I don't see a world where I'm getting to 80 days. I think I might hit 70. Probably the max. I'm not really sure. But as I'm hanging out with my parents, I didn't really know where I'm going after I leave them. So I was camping with them, doing a lot of thinking, brainstorming, catching my vibe, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And that's pretty much what I'm doing with my parents in Banff. And now we'll play the last of my second month out here on the road. We'll play that clip now. Well, welcome to day 61 of me posting a short for every day. I'm on my big van life road trip. And today is my final day here in Banff. Obviously, this day started with another dad-made breakfast, and then we went to town for a walk. We walked along the Bow River, and the trail featured some art along it. It's the Art Walk. This hike was the perfect hike for my parents. It's beautiful, but also very easy. Along with the art, This trail continues all the way to Bow River Falls, where there's a nice viewpoint, making a great turnaround point. We then went to the St. James Gate Irish pub for lunch. I got bangers and mash and a Caesar. Eventually, I went for another walk along the Hoodoos of View Trail, which had great views of the valley and of the Hoodoos themselves. I'm also really curious about the reason why these pine cones are in bags. And that's a wrap on Banff. Well, there we go. That was day 61. That's the end of Banff. I was just doing the Banff thing. That walk along the Bow River is exactly the reason I brought my parents to Banff. It's right up their alley. It's perfect for their little dog. You walk along, see the art, see the river, see the falls. My dad was able to take pictures of the old Banff Hot Springs Hotel or whatever it's called. It was a nice little walk. Then we went out for lunch. If you're in Banff, do the eating. That's what Banff does the best. Restaurants, eating, drinking wine, drinking Caesars, that kind of thing. That's what Banff is for. And it was a great place for us as a family to hang out. After that, they went back to the campsite. I walked the Hoodoos Trail myself. Some time to get away from them. A nice little trail. Very short. I think you can extend it and walk from the campsite all the way down to the village, actually, via the Hoodoos Trail. I did not do that. I walked from the parking lot up and down the trail. The Hoodoos, hey, if you're into Hoodoos, they're there. There's not that much. It's like 3 little spires of Hoodoos. They're cool. I'm not shitting on them, but it's like they're not that spectacular. The views of the mountain, to me, way nicer than the actual Hoodoos themselves. I don't know why they don't call it the Mountain View Trail, but it's the Hoodoo Trail. Whatever. I'm not going to complain about it. It was a nice way to spend my final day in Banff. Yeah, and that's it. That's the end of month 2 of daily reels. I am still on this trip. I do not know how much longer I have left. I have at least 7 days. I am currently somewhere outside of Canmore filming this video. I think I'm going to go to Calgary tonight to try to upload this to YouTube. Probably at a library. Not really sure. So that's sort of the plan. I think I'm going to go into Kananaskis and work my way back into BC. I enjoyed going back into BC, but then having to meet my parents or moving with my parents up into Banff forced me back into Alberta. But I wouldn't mind going back into BC. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time here. I still do kind of want to get home, adopt a dog, get a job. Because like I said, I am very broke. I'm tired. And I just wouldn't mind being at home. See my friends, sleep in my bed where I know there's no mouse. There better not. There better not be a mouse at home. It just would be nice to get back to normal life. I enjoy my time out here. But with that being said, it is kind of... it's work. I'm out here. I'm hiking every day. I'm walking. I'm making these stupid videos. It is a lot of work. And very upsetting to the routine. And routine is nice. Yeah, so with that being said, like I said, that is the end of this month. I don't know how much longer I got out here. But when I'm done, I'll do another recap of the remaining daily shorts. But until then, peace.